Emma walked through the heavy glass doors of Riverside Community Center on a cold Tuesday morning. Her hands shook as she held the volunteer application she had filled out the night before. She had written and rewritten her answers many times, trying to find the right words to explain why she wanted to help without telling the whole truth about her past. The lobby smelled like fresh paint, and children's laughter echoed from somewhere down the hallway. Emma took a deep breath and approached the front desk where a young woman with curly hair was sorting through papers. "Excuse me," Emma said quietly. "I'm here about the art teacher volunteer position." Before the receptionist could answer, a warm voice spoke behind Emma. "Are you here about the art teacher position?" Emma turned round and saw a tall man with kind brown eyes and paint stains on his fingers. His smile was genuine and welcoming, something Emma hadn't experienced in a very long time. He wore a simple blue shirt and jeans, and there was something about his gentle manner that made her feel safe. "Yes, Emma replied softly, tucking a strand of her dark hair behind her. "Yeah, I love working with children." The man extended his hand. "I'm James, the center's coordinator. Would you like me to show you round?" Emma shook his hand and felt warmth spread through her chest. "I'm Emma. That would be wonderful." James led her through bright hallways lined with colorful artwork. Children's drawings covered every wall, showing rainbows, families, and dreams painted in bold strokes. Emma stopped in front of a picture of a house with smoke coming from the chimney and a family stand. In front, "This is beautiful," she said, touching the frame gently. "That's from Marcus, one of our kids," James explained. "He drew his dream home. His family lives in a tiny apartment, but he never stops believing things can get better." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. She understood that feeling of hoping for something better, of dreaming of a different life. They reached the art room, which was filled with tables, easels, and supplies. Sunlight streamed through large windows, making everything glow. Emma could imagine children here, creating and laughing and discovering they were capable of making beautiful things. "The last teacher had to move away," James said. "The kids have been asking when they'll have art class again. They miss it terribly. I would love to help them," Emma said, meaning every word. Over the next few days, James called Emma's references and approved her application. When she arrived for her first day, she found 20 children waiting eagerly in the art room. Some were shy and hung back near the walls. Others bounced with excitement. Emma introduced herself and asked each child to share their name and favorite color. Little Tommy, a boy with freckles and sad eyes, whispered that his favorite color was blue like the ocean, even though he had never seen the sea. "We're going to paint oceans today," Emma announced. And Tommy's face lit up for the first time. Week after week, Emma watched the children blossom under her care. She had a gift for seeing what each child needed. When Sarah felt different from the other kids because she wore thick glasses and spoke with a stutter, Emma helped her discover she was an amazing artist. When Quiet Maria was too scared to speak up, Emma encouraged her to express her feelings through painting. James often found reasons to visit the art room. He would bring supplies or check on the children. But really he came to watch Emma work her magic. She had a way of making every child feel special and talented. "You're wonderful with them," James told Emma one afternoon as they cleaned paint brushes together. The children had gone home, and the room was peaceful. Emma's cheeks turned pink. "They just need someone to see how special they are. Every child has something beautiful inside." James found himself looking forward to seeing Emma every day. She brought light to everyone round her with her gentle voice and encouraging words. The children adored her, and even the shyest ones began to open up. But sometimes James noticed sadness in her eyes when she thought no one was watching. like she was carrying a heavy burden. One evening, as they were locking up the center together, James gathered his courage. "Would you like to have coffee with me sometime?" he asked, his heart beating fast. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had dreamed of someone like James for years, kind, honest, and caring. He made her feel like she could be worthy of good things, but her past felt like a heavy shadow following her everywhere she went. "I'd love that," she whispered, hoping desperately that her secrets would destroy this beautiful chance at happiness. Their first coffee date at the small cafe downtown lasted 3 hours. They talked about their dreams of helping others and making the world a better place. James spoke passionately about his construction company and how he wanted to build affordable homes for families in need. Emma shared her love of art and her belief that creativity could heal broken hearts. "I believe everyone deserves a second chance," Emma said, her voice full of meaning that James didn't yet understand. Daughters' weeks turned into months. Emma and James fell deeply in love. She supported his work building homes for struggling families, while continuing to inspire the children at the center. James had never met anyone so compassionate and giving. He felt like the luckiest man alive. But Emma carried a secret that grew heavier each day she loved him more, knowing that the truth about who she used to be could destroy everything beautiful they were building together. Emma and James had been together for 8 wonderful months when the cracks in her carefully built new life began to show. Their love had grown stronger each day, and James often talked about their future together. But with each passing week, Emma felt the weight of her secret growing heavier. The first strange moment happened on a sunny Saturday afternoon. They were walking through the art supply store, picking out new paints for the children at the community center. Emma was laughing at something James had said when her phone rang. The number on the screen made her blood run cold. "Excuse me," she said, stepping away from James toward the back of the store. "I need to take this." James continued browsing the paint brushes while Emma answered the call. From across the store, he watched her face change completely. Her shoulders became tense and rigid. She looked round nervously, as if checking to see who might be listening. Her voice dropped to a whisper, and she turned her back to him. After just a minute, Emma hung up quickly and walked back to James with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Everything okay?" James asked, concerned by the change in her mood. "Wrong number," Emma said. But her voice sounded strained. "Someone looking for a different Emma. Let's get those paint brushes for the kids." James nodded and squeezed her hand. But he noticed how her palm felt sweaty and how she avoided looking directly at him for the rest of their shopping trip. A few weeks later, they were having a quiet evening at James's apartment, sharing takeout, Chinese food and watching television. A courtroom drama came on, showing lawyers arguing about bail amounts and sentencing guidelines. Emma became very focused on the show, nodding along as if she understood every legal term perfectly. "How do you know so much about bail and sentencing?" James asked curiously. "You're talking about it like you studied law." Emma's hands trembled slightly as she sat down. Her chopsticks, her face went pale for just a moment before she forced another smile. I did some research when I was helping kids whose parents had legal troubles," she said quickly. "You know how some of our children have family members who've had problems with the law. I wanted to understand the system better so I could help them." James accepted her explanation because it made sense. Emma was always going above and beyond to help the children at the center. But he noticed how she immediately changed the subject to talk about weekend plans, and how she seemed uncomfortable for the rest of the evening. The most troubling discovery came one evening when Emma was taking a shower. James was looking for his phone charger, which he thought he had left in her bedroom. As he searched through the drawers of her nightstand, he accidentally knocked over her jewelry box. The contents spilled across the floor. Emma usually wore simple, inexpensive jewelry, small silver earrings, a plain watch, maybe a simple chain necklace. But among these modest pieces, James found something that took his breath away. There was an expensive diamond necklace that sparkled like stars, and a heavy gold bracelet that looked like it cost more than most people made in months. When Emma came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel with her hair still dripping, she found James holding the expensive jewelry. "These are beautiful," he said, studying the intricate design of the necklace. "I've never seen you wear them. Family heirlooms." Emma's face went white, but she recovered quickly. "Yes," she said quietly, taking the jewelry from his hands with fingers that shook slightly. "From my grandmother. I don't like wearing expensive things. They make me uncomfortable." James hugged her, understanding that some people preferred simple things. But he didn't see the tears that filled Emma's eyes as she held him close, or notice how her whole body trembled as she tried not to cry. The moment Emma feared most came on a beautiful Saturday at the farmer's market. They were browsing the fresh vegetables and homemade crafts, holding hands and enjoying the sunshine. Emma was examining some beautiful tomatoes when she heard footsteps approaching. "Excuse me," said a woman's voice behind them. "Aren't you?" Emma turned round and saw a middle-aged woman with grey hair staring at her with recognition in her eyes. Emma's heart stopped beating for a moment. "I'm sorry. You must have me confused with someone else," Emma said quickly, grabbing James's arm and pulling him away from the vegetable stand. "We need to go." "But we just got here," James said, confused by Emma's sudden urgency. "I forgot I have something important to do," Emma said, walking so fast that James had to hurry to keep up with her as they rushed toward their car. James looked back and saw the woman still staring after them with a puzzled expression. "She seemed really sure she knew you," James said as they got into the car. "Maybe she's seen you at the community center." "People think they recognize me all the time," Emma replied, her heart pounding so hard she could barely speak. "I guess I have one of those faces that looks familiar." That night, Emma lay awake beside James, listening to his peaceful breathing while tears streamed silently down her face. She loved him more than life itself, more than her own safety and happiness. But every day she lived in terror that he would discover the truth about who she really was. She wasn't Emma the art teacher who helped children discover their creativity. She was Emma the convicted criminal who had served 5 years in prison for embezzlement and fraud. James had been carrying the engagement ring in his jacket pocket for 3 weeks, waiting for the perfect moment to propose to Emma. He had chosen a simple but beautiful diamond ring that reminded him of her gentle spirit every time he looked at her laughing with the children at the community center or curled up beside him reading a book. He felt certain that she was the woman he wanted to spend his life with. Emma's birthday was approaching in 2 weeks, and James wanted to plan something special for her. She had mentioned her birthday casually once or twice, but whenever he asked about her family or childhood memories, she would smile sadly and change the subject. He had learned not to push too hard about her past, thinking that maybe she had lost her family or had painful memories she wasn't ready to share. James decided to do some research online to see if he could find information about her hometown or family. He thought maybe he could contact old friends or relatives to help him plan a surprise party or meaningful gift. He loved Emma so much and wanted to show her how important she was to him. He started by searching for Emma Richardson, which was the name on all her official documents. At first, he found nothing unusual, just a few social media profiles that didn't seem to be her. Then, he searched for Emma Richardson with her approximate age and the city where she had told him she grew up. What appeared on his computer screen made his heart stop beating. The first result was a newspaper article from 6 years ago with the headline "Local Woman Sentenced in Charity Fraud Case." Below it was a photograph that made James feel sick to his stomach. It was Emma, but she looked completely different. She was thinner, with hollow cheeks and empty, defeated eyes. Her hair was shorter and darker. She looked like a broken person, with trembling hands. James clicked on the article and began to read. The story told of a young woman named Emma Richardson who had been manipulated by her boyfriend into stealing money from the children's charity where she worked. The boyfriend, Marcus Webb, had convinced her to create false bank accounts and move thousands of dollars to accounts he controlled. He had told her it was temporary, that they were just borrowing the money and would put it back when the theft was discovered. Marcus had disappeared completely, leaving Emma to face the police. Alone, she had been sentenced to 5 years in prison for embezzlement and fraud. The article mentioned that she had cried in court and begged forgiveness from the families whose children would no longer receive help because of the stolen money. James found more articles from her trial. In one, Emma's lawyer argued that she had been a victim of manipulation, but the judge said that didn't excuse her choices. Another article mentioned that she had no prior criminal record and had been described by co-workers as kind and hard-working before she met Marcus. The dates on the article showed that Emma had been released from prison just 18 months ago. All this time, while she was teaching children and falling in love with him, she had been hiding this enormous secret. James stared at his computer screen for hours, reading every article he could find. The woman in the photographs looked nothing like the Emma he knew and loved. Prison Emma looked angry and hopeless. His Emma was full of light and joy and compassion. That evening, Emma arrived at James's apartment with takeout from their favorite Chinese restaurant. She used her key to let herself in, humming a song she had been teaching the children at the center. She was wearing a yellow dress that made her look like sunshine. James, "I brought dinner," she called out cheerfully. "I got your favorite orange chicken." She walked into the kitchen and stopped suddenly. James was sitting at his small dining table with papers spread out in front of him, even from across the room. Emma could see the newspaper headlines and her own face staring back at her from the printed articles. Her face went completely white. The takeout container slipped from her hands and fell to the floor, spilling food everywhere, but neither of them noticed the mess. "Emma," James said quietly, his voice full of pain and confusion. "Who are you really?" Emma's legs felt weak, and she sank into the chair across from him. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to fold them in her lap. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the tick of the clock on the wall. "I'm the woman who loves you more than anything in the world," Emma whispered finally, her voice barely audible. "But I'm also the woman in those articles." James looked at her with eyes full of hurt and betrayal. "You lied to me about everything, about who you are, about your past, about your life." "No," Emma said firmly, even as tears began streaming down her face. "I never lied about who I am now. I never lied about loving you or caring about those children or wanting to help people. I only hid who I used to be." Through her tears, Emma told him the whole story. She explained how young and desperate she had been when she met Marcus, how he had slowly convinced her that taking the money was justified, how she had realized too late that she was destroying everything good in her life. "I served my time," Emma said, her voice breaking. "I paid for what I did. I changed my name legally when I got out because I wanted a fresh start. I never planned to fall in love. I never meant to deceive you about who I was becoming." James stood up and walked to the window, turning his back to her. Emma could see his reflection in the glass, and the disappointment and confusion in his face broke her heart completely. "I need time to think," he said without turning round. his voice cold and distant. Emma nodded, even though he couldn't see her. She quietly gathered her purse and jacket. Leaving the spilled food on the floor, she closed the door softly behind her, knowing that she might never see him again. James didn't sleep for 3 days after learning Emma's secret. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of their relationship in his mind. Had there been signs he missed? Were her smiles fake? Was any of it real? He walked through his life like a ghost, unable to focus on anything except the woman he thought he knew. His business partner Michael noticed something was wrong during their important meeting with the Johnson F. family. James had been trying to present their plans for building affordable housing, but he kept losing his train of thought. He mixed up numbers and forgot important details about the project. "What's wrong with you lately?" Michael asked after their clients left. "You nearly lost us the Johnson contract. That's a $50,000 job." "James, we can't afford mistakes like that." James looked at his business partner and best friend since college. Michael had always been practical and straightforward. Maybe he needed someone to talk to who could help him think clearly about this impossible situation. "It's Emma," James said quietly. "I found out something about her past that changes everything." Michael sat down across from James in their small office. "What kind of something?" James took a deep breath and told Michael the whole story. He explained about the newspaper articles, the prison sentence, and how Emma had been living under a new identity. Michael's face grew more serious with each detail. "You need to end this relationship right now," Michael said immediately. "James, think about our reputation. We're trying to build a company based on trust and honesty. What happens when people find out you're involved with a convicted criminal?" Michael leaned forward, his voice urgent. "Our clients trust us to build their homes, to handle their money, to be reliable. If word gets out that your girlfriend is a thief, who's going to want to hire us? The Johnson family, the Martinez family, all our future clients. They'll go somewhere else." James felt sick listening to his friend's words, but he couldn't argue with the logic. Their construction business was still new and growing. They had worked so hard to build a good reputation in their community. That evening, James's sister Lucy came to visit him at his apartment. She had always been his closest friend and advisor, the person who knew him better than anyone else. Lucy was 2 years older than James, and had helped raise him after their parents divorced. Lucy took one look at James's exhausted face and knew something was terribly wrong. She made tea while he told her everything about Emma's past and his discovery of the truth. "I can see you're in love with her," Lucy said after hearing the whole story. "But James, she lied to you for almost a year. Every day you were together, she was keeping this huge secret. How can you ever trust her again?" Lucy sat beside her brother on the couch, her voice gentle but firm. "What if there are other things she hasn't told you? What if this is just the beginning? Love isn't enough if you can't trust someone completely." But even as James listened to his sister and his business partner, other memories kept flooding his mind. He remembered Emma's passion for helping children who felt forgotten and alone. He thought about her knowledge of second chances and redemption. He remembered the tears in her eyes when she talked about people who had made mistakes and were trying to change their lives. Suddenly, so many things made sense. Emma's deep understanding of loneliness, her fierce protection of the children at the community center, her belief that everyone deserved forgiveness. It all came from her own experience of falling down and trying to get back up. The next day, James drove to the community center during Emma's afternoon art class. He sat in his car in the parking lot and watched through the large windows. Emma was working with about 15 children. helping them paint pictures of their dreams and hopes. James watched as a little girl with a disability struggled to hold her paintbrush. The girl looked frustrated and ready to give up. Emma knelt beside her chair, gently guiding her small hand and speaking words of encouragement that James couldn't hear through the glass. When the girl successfully painted a bright yellow flower, Emma's face lit up with pure joy, as if nothing in the world mattered more than that child's success. Mrs. Peterson, the center director, knocked on James's car window. He rolled it down. Feeling embarrassed to be caught watching, "Are you here to see Emma?" Mrs. Peterson asked kindly. "I know you two haven't been around together lately. The children keep asking where you are." "I'm just thinking about some things," James said quietly. Mrs. Peterson looked toward the art room where Emma was now helping another child mix colors on a palette. "Emma is the best volunteer we've ever had," she said. "These children love her more than anyone. She has a special gift for showing people they matter, for helping them believe in themselves." The older woman paused, then added, "Whatever problems you two are having, I hope you can work them out. She's been sad lately, and sadness doesn't suit someone with such a beautiful heart." That weekend, Emma made the hardest decision of her life. She couldn't continue living in fear that James would discover more about her past. She couldn't keep watching him struggle with doubt and hurt because of her choices. She loved him too much to put him through any more pain. Emma sat at her small kitchen table and wrote James a letter with shaking hands. "My dearest James, I love you enough to set you free. I never wanted to hurt you, but I see now that my silence caused more pain than the truth would have. I'm not sorry for the woman I became after prison, but I'm sorry I was too afraid to trust you with my whole story from the beginning. You deserve someone without shadows in her past, someone who won't complicate your life or threaten your dreams. Please remember that every moment of love between us was real. You helped me believe I could be worthy of good things. Take care of yourself. My love, Emma." She left the letter on James's doorstep early Sunday morning. By the time he found it that afternoon, Emma was gone. James spent 2 weeks in complete misery after Emma left. He couldn't eat more than a few bites at each meal, and food tasted like cardboard in his mouth. At work, he made simple mistakes that he had never made before. He would start sentences and forget what he was trying to say. His business partner Michael kept asking if he was sick, but James couldn't explain that his heart felt like it had been torn in half. Everyone round him kept saying he was better off without Emma. His sister, Lucy, called every day to remind him that he had made the right choice. Michael brought him lunch and talked about how they could focus on growing their business now that James didn't have distractions. But James had never felt worse in his entire life. One evening, James found himself driving to the community center without really thinking about it. He parked in the same spot where he used to wait for Emma after her art classes, through the windows. He could see children working at their tables with a substitute teacher. The room looked exactly the same, but it felt completely empty without Emma's laughter filling the space. James walked inside and stood in the doorway of the art room. Several children recognized him and ran over with excited faces. "Mr. James," called little Sarah, the girl who had discovered she was an amazing artist. "Where have you been? When is Miss Emma coming back?" Tommy, the quiet boy who used to be too shy to speak, tugged on James's jacket. "We miss Miss Emma so much. The new teacher is nice, but she's not the same. Miss Emma taught us that mistakes don't define us," Tommy said, his voice now confident and clear. "She said what matters is not that we mess up, but what we do after we mess up. She said everyone deserves to try again." James felt like someone had hit him in the chest. He looked round the room at all the artwork covering the walls, paintings, and drawings that Emma had helped these children create. Every piece showed hope, dreams, and the belief that beautiful things were possible. He realized that Emma had been living exactly what she'd taught these children every single day. She had made terrible mistakes when she was young and desperate, but she had spent every day since then trying to become better. She had transformed her pain into purpose, her shame into service, and her regret into love for others. That night, James made a decision that surprised even himself. He hired a private investigator to find Emma. He gave the man her real name and told him to search for any trace of where she might have gone. 3 days later, the investigator called with information. Emma had moved to a small coastal town called Maplewood. About 3 hours away, she had rented a tiny apartment above a bakery and was volunteering at the local library and women's shelter. James drove to Maplewood on a Saturday morning, his heart pounding with nervousness and hope. He had no idea what he would say to Emma or if she would even want to see him, but he knew he had to try. He found the library easily in the small downtown area, through the large front windows. He could see a circle of chairs where about 8 women were sitting together. Emma was there, speaking to the group with the same gentle passion he remembered from watching her with the children. James stood outside and listened as Emma's voice carried through the slightly open window. "I know it's scary to try again," Emma was saying to the women in the circle. "I know it feels impossible to believe that good things can happen to people like us. But I'm here to tell you that redemption is real. Love is real. Second chances are real. Even when we don't think we deserve them." A young woman in the circle started crying, her shoulders shaking with emotion. "But what if people find out about our past? What if they can't accept who we used to be? What if they judge us forever for our worst moments?" Emma leaned forward, her voice gentle but strong. "Then those aren't your people, the right people, the people who are meant to be in your life. We'll love all of you, including your story of overcoming. They will see not just where you came from, but where you're going." James felt tears running down his cheeks as he listened to Emma speak. This was the woman he had fallen in love with, not despite her difficult past, but because of how she had transformed her pain into a gift for others. She had taken the worst experience of her life and used it to help people who were struggling with the same feelings of shame and hopelessness. James took a deep breath and walked into the library. Emma looked up and saw him standing in the doorway. Her face showed shock, hope, and fear all at the same time. "Ladies," James said to the group, his voice shaking slightly, "my name is James, and I'm here because I love Emma more than my own reputation, more than other people's opinions, and more than my fear of imperfection." Emma stood up slowly, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't believe James was really there. "I was wrong to let you leave," James continued, looking directly into Emma's eyes. "I want to build a life with the woman you are now. The woman who turns broken things into beautiful things, who shows children they matter, and who teaches all of us what real courage looks like." Emma ran across the circle of chairs and into James's arms. He held her tightly, as if he would never let her go again. Round them, the women in the support group were crying and smiling, witnessing a moment of true love and forgiveness. 6 months later, James and Emma were married in the art room of the Riverside Community Center where they had first met. The children Emma had inspired were there, along with the women from her support group in Maplewood, and friends who loved them for exactly who they were. Emma's simple white wedding dress had a special pocket sewn inside where she kept a small note that read, "Today I marry my second chance. The end."